Greetings and welcome to the First United Methodist Church in Bowling Green, Missouri. We hope that you enjoy what you're about to see, and you can find us at the corner of Broadway and Church Streets at 11 o'clock on Sunday mornings. Or you can find us at bgmethodist.org and on Facebook at Bowling Green First United Methodist Church. In this message, we have a special treat. Pastor John is out of town, and so Pam Bolte is bringing us the message today, and she's talking about why it's okay to ask questions. So listen up and start asking questions of your own.
I'd like to just start with a little prayer to maybe get me through, but maybe it'll help you too, okay? Father, we come to you at this time of worship and learning. We open our lives to you. We open them up to your grace and understanding. We bring you our concerns, our hurts, our hopes, as we learn more about you and we know that you shape our lives. We ask for your strength and allow us to have knowledge to serve you. When Pastor John said that he needed to be with his father, of course I said I was glad to do it, and there's others that probably do it much better than me, but you got to remember that I'm trying to continue his series, and he has some pretty big shoes for me to step into and some pretty long steps. So I'll just make you one assurance. I am not as tall, I am not Bigfoot, and I will just talk to you as me and as a layman to God, okay? So, if you're flipping through the Old Testament, you will realize, or note, that Malachi is the last chapter of the Old Testament. And in Malachi, the Lord tells us he does not change. He has not changed from the beginning of the Old Testament and all that he has done. God is the creator. He is our beginning. He has remained steady in all of his purpose and has not been a God of whims or fashions of the day. And I think that's a lot of security. Also, in the prior chapters of the Old Testament, we have learned his laws on the 10 Commandments and the history of the many prophets and their challenges and their thoughts on trying to obey. The Israelites had to wander for 40 years in the wilderness before they finally realized about God's teaching. Malachi, he does tell us that our God is a God of leniency. And by that it means that if we've strayed, but we come back to him with the right heart and the right obedience, he will accept us back. And the Israelites did that. And they did get to the promised land that he had assured them that they would receive. And they were allowed, because of the leniency of God, to receive his favor. I think that's a wonderful blessing and a wonderful thing to remember. Another example that kind of goes along with some of our announcements and concerns that we've had is written right there in Malachi for us about giving of our tithes and offerings. God gives us 90% to keep and use for ourselves. That means we can be good stewards of the money that he's giving us, or the blessings he's given us, or we can just blow it all. That's up to us, and that's our choice. But we do need to give 10% back. That's all he asks. Now, in the financial world, which I know Carolyn is among some of those, and Jack, they would say that's a pretty good deal to get 90% on your investment, because that doesn't happen most of the time. So when I saw it in that light, I'm getting 90%, he's getting 10%, it really helped me understand what tithing is and what a blessing we have in being able to tithe just 10%. I'm really glad that someone kind of explained that to me, because I'm kind of dense and I have to see pictorial, or I'm not an oral person. I have to picture it up here. Okay, so why? And there we go with that question, why? Does God ask even for 10%? Well, he assures us that with that 10%, he will bless others. Now that's pretty awesome too. He's not keeping that 10% for himself. He's blessing others. And if we follow what he teaches us, he promises us many blessings. Now, I just think that is awesome myself, and the more that I think about it, I think what a great God he is. It is okay to ask why for a better understanding of God's word. So we've answered why he asked for 10%. I looked up the definition of why in the dictionary, and it says, why is for what reason, purpose, or cause. Pastor John has been providing you a way to ask questions. Questions are usually started with a why or a what, and that is really good so that you can get information and understanding. So, what is your why? Think about that. Another thought, though, is for some of us, I know there's a lot of young ones here, but for some of us, you didn't ask why when you were growing up. It was because I say so, or because I said so, and you were left without information or the reason that you were doing something, so it built up a little resentment, or it did in me at times, you know. So we need to go ahead and ask why sometimes, and it's good that we can do that now, because we're getting information as to what reason or how we are supposed to do something. Several years back, we had heavy rains in this area, I know you'll recall, and the dams were holding back volumes of water. And many of the dams, not necessarily in this area, but you could drive or walk across them for sightseeing and get better pictures, or to see the whole vast land that was below the dam. You just take that for granted sometimes. But the Army Corps of Engineers suddenly decided that we shouldn't do that, and they took all that away. Well, some people were upset. They could have asked why, but they didn't. They just stormed off and, well, the boy's done this. I'm not very big. I don't see what it would hurt for me to walk on there. That was the attitude. But remember this, the Army Corps of Engineers was not doing that to inconvenience the people that were sightseeing or wanting to see all the flood below that was not part of the volumes of water behind or anything like that. They had a reason because the dams were stressed beyond stress. And the slightest thing could have made them break, and then land, people would have been lost. We had the same thing with our levees. We had to be very careful and not let the boats too near, or no fishing or anything like that. But do you think if the people had asked for information to the why, it might have created a little more compassion and understanding for what the Corps of Engineers was doing, and they might have not resented that privilege that had been taken away, because they might have had concern for those that were involved below or near the dams. So asking why does not mean that you are testing. Sometimes we get worried if we ask why that someone will take it that we're testing them. And we're not doing that. Let's go back to our flooding in our dams a minute. if those people, feeling they had lost the privilege, had gone ahead and driven across or walked across, and that dam burst, wouldn't that have been horrible? And they would have been testing what the Army Corps of Engineers already knew was overstressed. So that would be testing when you are thinking about not following the regulations or not following God's laws. So sometimes we get a little willful on some of our things, and we need to think about that, but it's still okay to ask why. Also in Matthew 4, we read that Jesus was tempted, and tempted many times by the devil. So Jesus had fasted 40 days and 40 nights. Well, I know what it's like if I have to fast 8 hours for a test, let alone 8 days or 40 days. So I get pretty spoiled to having my food on time, and probably more than I should. But Jesus remembered the laws of God, and he said, it is written, that he would not do anything that would test God, because God was going to take care of this. But Satan wouldn't stop. He tempted Jesus again by asking him to jump from the pinnacle, and the angels would come. Well, how many times have you heard that when we're saying we're lifting someone in prayer? Well, where's your angels to take care of that person? It's God's will. You just have to remember that, and it's God's laws. It isn't the angels. It isn't the devil. It isn't the devil we worship. We can be tempted on things. We are tested in the same way every day. Have you ever thought about being so low on funds and someone in front of you drops a $20 bill? And you think, there's my opportunity. And you don't give the $20 bill back. Oh, or maybe we could take a little piece of this or a little piece of that somewhere. You know, we don't think anyone will notice, but who notices? Who notices? It will be God noticing. So if we had an excuse or a reason, if we were caught taking the $20 bill, we would say, well, I really needed the money. I didn't think they needed it as badly as I do. Or we would say, I didn't think they would notice if I picked it up, if they had several bills or whatever. Somebody's always noticing, but we have to answer. And so you don't test those laws of the 10 Commandments of not stealing or wanting someone else's things. And it's really tough when you're in a hard time and you're being tempted by that devil. So why do we ask why? It is okay to ask why, to learn and understand better. We already know the Bible has told us that God is a sure God. He's been steady. He's done everything that he said he would do. He created us. He created new beginnings. And he is the one that we answer to. Not the devil, not the temptations of today. But we can ask why to better understand his teachings and his talking to us. It's okay to ask why. So if you've been in church a long time, or you maybe have worshiped at home a long time and learned about God and his teachings, it's still okay to ask why to understand more. And I do ask why. The pastor will tell you probably that he has some bald spots, because I'm constantly saying why. And you are asking some really good questions, and I'll tell you, he has been muttering to himself. So that is good that you ask those questions. But if you're brand new, you're just learning, it's still okay to ask why. That's the neat thing about today's teaching. So I ask you to go ahead and ask why, but go out and let your light shine, as Carolyn talked about in the children's sermon, and continue asking why, but to let your love of God shine. What is your why? and what are you learning?